The message to those Liverpool supporters: we have to change from doubter to believer. No.
Hello everyone and welcome to the match preview ahead of Liverpool versus Tottenham. I'm Steve Hall, delighted to be joined by Jon Reid and by George James for this one. Those of you who've just watched on YouTube, you'll have seen a lovely little advert for our newest t-shirt, our Doubts to Believe t-shirt. I'm wearing one, it's been blocked by the microphone, but there you go. Oh, wrong way. There you go. Jurgen Klopp likes it because Abby took it down there and showed him himself. So yeah, if you want to get involved, Redmen merch is the place to go for that one. Wonderful shirt, created for us by the wonderful Abby Rudkin. And yeah, it's got the Jurgen Klopp seal of approval as well. If you're listening to this, just go to redmenmerch.com, check it out yourselves. I'm sure you'll have seen the videos floating around social media by now because Abby looked like she was going to cry with joy when she showed Jurgen the painting and the t-shirt. Can confirm one of his assistants tried to take it off him and he went no, and he kept hold of it on his shoulder. So if you see any videos of Jurgen walking around with a t-shirt on his shoulder, it was one of ours. Anyway, I digress. Let's have a chat about Liverpool versus Tottenham. In terms of the table, guys, this isn't the one that we wanted it to be. You know, you want this to be a huge game for Liverpool, and unfortunately, John, it's not that. It's actually a massive game for Tottenham. Their Champions League hopes all but rest on being perfect throughout their last couple of weeks. Because they've had a horrendous week themselves. You know, Liverpool have had a bad week. Recently, Tottenham have had an absolute stinker. It's gone really, really poorly for them. It feels like this is a huge game for Spurs, and for us, it's half an eye on the end of the season. As Jurgen's press conference might have hinted that, where he was half on the beach himself.
Yeah, it's a big one, isn't it? Obviously, tone set by the manager, really enjoyed it. I actually thought he looked a bit refreshed as well, which was nice. Like the week off's clearly done him some good, but no, it's a big game, obviously for them in terms of the Champions League stuff, and you know you can't take them lightly. I think they're such an up and down team, aren't they? They play football, I think, the way a lot of us would like to play football, but when it goes wrong spectacularly. And I don't know whether it's just a bit of tiredness is creeping up on them, or whether they're just being found out a little bit. You know, I've seen us a lot of stuff around the match in the last week as Spurs. You know, in terms of, you know, did they just hit higher highs, if you like, at the start of the season, and this is going back to the mean. But you know, it's a hard thing for them. You know, obviously North London derby is just a mad game of football every time they have it. The results since, obviously, are a bit harder to take. I watched them last night against Chelsea and I thought they looked a bit ordinary, to be honest.
They were rubbish against Newcastle. Like they were 4-0 and it could have been more. And Newcastle tends to have their number. It just feels like they know, so like wheels falling off and things ending poorly. Like Postecoglou had a good season, don't get me wrong, and Spurs fans enjoyed it, but it does feel like it's a little bit like Liverpool's, where maybe just that little one step too far for them. It
does feel like it's pieced out a little bit, and I think the big thing for them as well is sort of the impetus and attack. I think the build-up still looks quite good for them, but they just seem to be a bit, I don't want to say lost in front of goal, but just short of ideas. You know, they've been undone a lot at sort of set plays and stuff as well, in terms of the goalie, Vicario. I've seen him give up a lot of goals from corners this season, so it's a tough one for them, I think, in terms of, like, as you say, it's their sort of last big shot, especially with all the stuff with, you know, the extra Champions League place going to Germany and stuff now. So it should all be thingy, and obviously there's a lot more, I think, probably on it in terms of spice after the way the other game went at the start of the season. So it could be fiery, I think, but you know, you've just got to see what comes of it.
The issue is, George, I've got the league table here for those watching and for those who are listening, and I'll explain it. Liverpool are third on 75 points. Aston Villa are fourth on 67 points. So Liverpool are 8 points clear. Basically, a point in any of the next 3 games guarantees Liverpool third. They're guaranteed Champions League anyway, so I'm not sure what the difference is. They're not going to catch City or Arsenal. That isn't going to happen. Whereas Spurs, they're hoping for Villa to implode like they did, but also they might have half an eye on what's behind them, because Man United are only 6 points, and they're rubbish, but they're only 6 points behind Spurs, but Spurs are in a really bad vein of form. Like I say, they've had injuries, no wonder that's what's caused this, but they've had a poor week of Tottenham. and then they come on Sunday. It goes one or two ways. Does the poor week continue, or is Sunday where they right the ship? It's hard to know, but have you got a sense after seeing them over the last week which way you think they might go?
Yeah, I think that there are a lot of similarities between us and Spurs, not necessarily throughout the whole season, but definitely over the last few weeks. And I think that it's going to be a great opportunity for Liverpool to, it will be a good crowd. They've got the flag day on the Kop, and it's as good an opportunity as we've had over the last couple of weeks to make a statement and go out. It's a team that is in pretty poor nick, and we can go out and if we can put quite a few past them, as happened against Newcastle the other day, then yeah, it looks very good for us. I think that's what I want to happen. That's what I think is going to happen. But I think that we are kind of at the point now. The pressure's off. There, we've got top four. A point gets third. I don't think that there's any pressure on the players now to go out and perform, and I think that will probably boost us rather than hinder us. And I think for them, just where there is so much riding on it, Anfield is a really hard place to go to. They've not got a great record here over the last few years, and I also think that the return game at Spurs, the way that ended, I think that the Liverpool players, that motivation enough, rather than having to fight to get top four. I think that getting revenge over Spurs for that will be enough for us.
Well, Jürgen brought that up in his press conference. He did touch upon. He said, I've got 500 reasons I want to win this game, and that is one of them. He went back and basically told the world how much he hates Simon Hooper, which completely logical and understandable point of view. But the problem I thought against West Ham, George, to stick with it from a Liverpool point of view quickly, was that it felt a little bit like both sides didn't have too much to play for, and the tempo, it's hard. The Premier League footy's hard, and playing at 90%, you can just tell it's something, and that's my worry. Like, I bet if Sky had their wish again of the TV games, they probably wouldn't have Liverpool versus Tottenham on it. They might keep Aston Villa because that might be the game that gets them Champions League or whatever. It happened with the Everton game against Brentford, wasn't it? Where what you think is going to be the story and is no longer the story, and that's what it feels like with Liverpool Tottenham. It felt like this was going to be the real big, huge hurdle in Liverpool's title challenge, and unfortunately, because it's not. I agree with the Kop point of the flag day and Jürgen, but they've got Wolves, so that there is a chance here that this game is a little bit flat, and that's my worry. Listen, it's a dead rubber almost per se, but from an atmosphere and from a spectacle, that's the worry here, isn't it? That it's just a little bit flat.
Yeah, I think there's definitely a possibility that happens. I think that Postecoglou and Spurs are going to come and attack, and I think that hopefully that will wake the crowd up a bit if it's a bit flat. But I think that you've got to look at it now. I think you've only got 2 games left at Anfield with Jurgen Klopp. You'd like to think that everyone who's there, no matter if the team are only giving it 90%, that everyone in the stadium will be giving it 100%. I mean, I'm going, and I know I will be. I think if you'd said to me at the start of the season that I'd get to be there for Klopp's 2 last games at Anfield ever, I'd be buzzing with that. So I think everyone else should be as well. It's as much as the end of the season's been disappointing, you can't say that our time under Klopp's been disappointing at all. So I think you kind of have to look at the bigger picture there and give him a proper send-off.
100%. It might make it easier to do so without the pressure of the games almost being as high. Going back to Tottenham very quickly before we move on to Liverpool, John, you mentioned before, like, injury-wise for them, I don't know if it's a coincide, but like losing the doggy has been a big one for them, because he was one of their better players. He might have been arguably their best player, I think, one of this season. They also lost Ben Davies, which again, I think he's a good player. Like, he's always playing a lot of games for them. Timo Werner's now injured, hamstring as well. Add to that, they've had Solomon's out for a while and a few others. But again, they've had so many injuries and things like that. It's almost a point like for Ange Postecoglou, he's been through this cycle quite a lot this season, and introducing a new style of play and what works and what doesn't work and whatever. Liverpool have got a few themselves, but again, a similar question to what I asked George, really. Is this a good time to play Spurs? Is it a bad time to play Spurs? I haven't quite worked out of, well, they've been rubbish recently and now they've got a couple of injuries, therefore it's good, or actually, can they get worse? Is Ange going to get a reaction? Because he looks like the type of manager who can. I don't know, obviously, but he looks like the type of manager who can inspire a reaction.
It's hard to say, isn't it? I think it's one of them for me. I think that if you can get in amongst Spurs and frustrate them for sort of 20 minutes, we might be okay. But I agree with you that like it's one of them, like off the back of 2 sort of chasing them defeats, do you sort of go again? But I just think it's so hard for them at the minute in terms of sort of like fresh impetus. I think one of the key things about some of the players that they've lost, like particularly Werner, obviously in terms of pace, but is that sort of ability to sort of get in behind and have a bit of an outball and stretch the game. And you're looking at, I know he's sort of been played into the ground both at a national level but also by Spurs, but you look at Son at the minute and he just doesn't look like he's got that spark. It's eerily similar in some ways, I think, a bit to Salah, but if you can sort of contain them, I don't think it's too much there. And it's like, when they were doing really well at the start of the season, they had all those options, not just in terms of rotation, but in terms of people who could provide that spark, like a James Maddison, if you like. And, a lot of them have sort of come off the boil a bit. And, some of it will just be fatigue because they've been played so much. Some of it will be, as you say, maybe they've got one eye on the Euros or whatever, or, whatever they're doing in the summer kind of thing. But I think it's probably a good time to play them. I think my main thing, just going back to what George said on terms of like the ground and stuff and all the rest of it, is I just think, maybe actually the league going a little bit in some ways is good for us, because it's sort of a bit like, well, obviously you want to win the league, but like the pressure's gone now, like, so it's like just go and play your game, and we can go out there and we haven't got to worry now. But some of the other stuff, as you say, it being a bit of a dead rubber for us actually might let the chains off a little bit. Absolutely.
I want to touch on it because Spurs, we mentioned there, George, of poor form, but I'm just going to read some players that this is the team that started against Chelsea: Vicario, Emerson, Van der Ven, Romero, Porro, Sarr and Basuma, Son, Kulusevski, Johnson, Richarlison. They brought James Maddison on, they brought Pierre Højbjerg on as well at times. Like, they've got a good squad. Tottenham, like, there's players there who will hurt you. Like, if Liverpool aren't at it, they've been conceding too many goals recently, or too easily. West Ham scored 2 poor goals, Everton scored 2 poor goals from a Liverpool point of view. Tottenham have definitely got the players who can hurt you. Son's record against Liverpool's pretty good. Richarlison finally got a goal against us last season. It didn't amount to much, thankfully, but he's shown that this season in particular, he's bounced back and led the line well for Spurs. Like I say, Maddison's been good. They've got lads who can hurt you, although they are in poor form. Liverpool needs to be wary of that.
Yeah, definitely. I don't think that, and I think we have been guilty of this a few times this season, I don't think you can go into the game sort of expecting to win. I think it's going to be hard. It's always going to be a challenge playing a Spurs team like this, even when they are in poor form. I think it would be a bit different if maybe we were going into it in better form, but the form that we're in as well, I don't think you can go into this game with sort of any air of complacency about the place. I think you have to realise that this is so much bigger a game for Spurs than it is for us, and so potentially that desire is going to be there more for the Spurs players. But I think that Klopp and the Liverpool players will be aware of that. They'll know that this isn't just a meaningless game for Spurs, and it is still a game that we should want to win, even if we don't have to win it. You should go into every game wanting to win, and I think now that pressure's off a bit, going back to the Klopp stuff, for the players, you want to end that on a high. You don't want to lose your last 3 games, and then that's how you're remembered for the end of Klopp. And for a few players that will probably be moving on as well, I'm sure that there are going to be some departures this summer. It's just now is the right time to, as much as it would have been great for them to turn the form around 2 weeks ago and us still be in the title race, I think they need to turn it around at some point. And Villa away is going to be a really difficult game. Obviously there's a chance that they already have top 4 sorted by then.
Well, so we could help with that.
Yeah.
If we beat Spurs and they beat Brighton, which they might do, then it's done. So you could almost make that half a dead rubber as well, which Liverpool could be playing 3 of them at the end of the season, which is unfortunate, I suppose.
But yeah, I just think that I think the players, for as much as for the fans, for Jurgen Klopp, need to go and win at least their 2 home games, and hopefully Villa away as well. Fingers crossed. Let's move to Liverpool then, John. I'll start with you. Manager's press conference today reveals Virgil van Dijk hasn't trained all week, so he's a doubt. Still no Diogo Jota, but we do have Conor Bradley returning. Again, there's no specificity on why Virgil's out, but I wonder if it's something to do with his hand. I said that before. Obviously, he had a really bad hand injury. Maybe obviously with the Euros on the horizon as well. You don't take chances with anyone. It'll be interesting to see what type of team Jurgen goes for here, because the Salah thing's a thing, the up front, like there's questions everywhere. But let's start at the back first. Bradley's back, Van Dijk's out. Is it just as simple as Konate and Quanta play centre back? Is the a Joe Gomez a centre back shout to be made now that Conor can play right back? Listen, the manager, I was thinking like he could try a few things out. It's not his problem. He doesn't have to try anything out because he's getting off.
What do you think the solution is there? Do you think it's just Quanta moves over to the left hand side and Ibu comes back in?
Yeah, I think he'll go with the tried and tested. I think, all things being equal, it might have been a game to experiment a bit more, especially with Bradley being back. Maybe you could do something with Trent in midfield or whatever. But no, I think he'll stick with what you've said, moving Quanta and Canate. And I think, you want, they're not necessarily physical Spurs in the way that maybe like a Brentford are, but they're very quick and athletic. So you'd obviously want sorts of people there who can deal with that. And I think, Canate's recovery is great. I actually wouldn't be surprised, to be honest, if maybe you saw at different points instead of Bradley, maybe you did see Gomez a fullback. Again, just in terms of like recovery pace and stuff. But no, it was a bit of a shock on the press conference when he said that, because it was just sort of a casual offhanding. But yeah, I think Quanta just comes in.
I suppose as well, like, we could have done 3 games a week, George. I was wondering, like, if anyone's feeling anything, then you probably don't play them. But also, like, there are lads going to the Euros who you might want to look after, but also they need to play games as well. Like, if Trent wants to be in the England team, which he surely will, he doesn't want to be sat down for 2 months doing nothing and then going away. So, while you can swap and change, you've also got to look after your senior pros. Like, it would be nice to give Bajcetic more minutes or give Bradley more minutes, but also, like, these lads don't want to play as well, the big guns. Trent don't want to play, Salah don't want to play, all of them will. So, it's a balance act that the manager's got to get right.
Yeah, I think that I'd be surprised to see Bradley start. I think you don't really want to rush him back, especially he's so young that you just kind of want to bed him back in slowly. But I think it'll be, I think you'll just see, like you said, Trent and then Canate and Quanta, and I wouldn't be too surprised to see Gomez start at left back. I think that at times this season we've definitely looked our best with Gomez at left back, so that's something that I don't think should be given up on just because Robertson and Tsimikas are both fit now. I think Gomez, especially looking forward to the Euros, that's probably the position he's most likely to get into that England squad in. So I think he'll probably be there speaking to Jurgen, saying, look, give me a chance here, because he needs to play and he needs to impress to get in that England squad.
It's interesting because Robbo was probably the best player in the second half for Liverpool as well, and he didn't have the greatest first half, but if you're Andy Robbo, you'll want to play in both. You'll want to play in all of these 3 games last of the year and stuff, so it'll be interesting. Midfield's one. He's got bazillions of options, which is mad. All season we've had no one. All of a sudden now everyone's available pretty much, other than Thiago, which you don't even have to mention anymore. Trent's an option as well, like you touched on before. Spurs are, in theory, have got a very combative midfield with a little bit of quality. So especially if you bring Maddison back in, you're looking at maybe it could be Sarr, it could be Basuma, Højbjerg, probably 2 of those. In front of them you might have Kulusevski or Maddison, again a bit more flair. How do you think Liverpool go balancing that out, or counteracting that rather?
I think the big one for me is legs. I think what's interesting, I think, is that he's had time with them in terms of training, so it's like what's he done in terms of that. But
well, they've all been played in new kits, getting trophies, getting pictures, getting painting signs. I didn't even done anything. They might be half on their holidays, which is sad. Like they've earned a bit of a break. But
I'd be tempted to say, I think, just on recent performances, but I don't know in terms of his attributes. If you like, I'd be tempted to say Gravenberch
100%
in terms of legs. And also he seems to be offering a bit of a threat going forward, if not necessarily scoring goals. I think you roll the dice on Endo, I think, and just say, all right, he looks a little bit like he's fell off in terms of legs and stuff, being tail end of the season, but we need someone there who's sort of willing to get into tackles. And it's also slightly a thing of, I think McAllister starts, so I'd rather see McAllister a bit further forward at 8 rather than at 6. So they'd be my 3. I mean, it's one of them, isn't it? As you say, you could sort of throw a blanket over, I think, Gravenberch, Jones, possibly even Gakpo, maybe.
Elliott,
yeah.
There's loads of... I would, George, before you ask yours, I would play McAllister in the 6, and I would play Gravenberch and Elliott, because I think they're the 3 most informed of them. What would you do?
Well, I think McAllister's the only one out of all of those options that is almost guaranteed to start.
Agreed.
I think, personally, we look more balanced with Endo at the 6. He does look like he's struggling a bit at this point in the season, but equally, this is the kind of game where, although Spurs are great, they are also struggling. It's if you aren't just going to give up on Endo completely for the last 3 games of the season, I think you probably start him here. And then I'd be also tempted to go with Gravenberch. I think giving him a proper run in the team for this last few games, when he is looking impressive, he's not given any reason for Klopp to drop him. I think that you might as well persist with that, and maybe we are starting to see glimpses of the player that he can become at Liverpool.
Up front's interesting because the lads who played against Everton were crap. The lads who played against West Ham a bit better but didn't really score a goal. Jota's still out. Do you know what I think's in good form at the moment, John? Is Diaz. I think he starts. I think he has to start on the left hand side. Although Cody Gakpo might want to play there, but I think Diaz will play. You could do anything with the other two positions. The manager played Harvey Elliott there the other week, for example. He's still an option. I don't even know what I would do. I think he will bring Salah back in. I think it's probably right to bring Salah back in at this point. He kind of questioned the press comments. Don't worry, we're all big boys. We're grown men. It's fine. It's done with. Leave him on the bench again. It would be an amazing power move if he did it. Salah, Nunes, Salah, Gakpo. I don't know. I don't know. I just don't know.
I think you say the obvious name has to be Diaz on the left because I think because of the needle in it. Obviously Davis is out, but for Spurs, but I don't know. It's like I would like to see. There's times where he's played Nunes coming in off the right and he's looked all right, and he also had a spell of putting Diaz on the right. Obviously, you're saying about Salah, but I think they both look good out there. So it's one of them things where, like I say, again, the training side of it, I think like I'd like to see something, especially with it being the end of the season. I'd like to see him. You know, maybe that's where he ends up being, given how frustrating Nunes has been in front of goal. But I think it's one of them, isn't it? It's going to be Salah. It's definitely going to be Diaz on the other side, and then up front, I think he'll probably start Nunes. I'd rather see him start Gakpo, I think, just in terms of running them ragged, their centre halves for a bit, because I think he'll give them more of a challenge, if you like.
Suppose if they play the high line, George, which Tottenham like to do, then that should, in theory, if he can stay on side, which is a big if, suit a more Darwin Nunes type player than a Gakpo, perhaps. Tottenham do leave big space in behind. Nicholas Jackson scored against them, and he, both games Chelsea have exploited that, albeit that mad one when they had no players left. But that is the argument, because if it's on form, Gakpo has to play. But again, this is the point. This isn't Jürgen's problem, because if you were Jürgen Klopp now, you'd probably want to play Darwin Nunes into some type of rhythm, he binned them off pretty much at the end of last season, and it's not his concern really. But I think it's a difficult one, because I would like to see Nunes start. But if you're Cody Gakpo, you're thinking, mate, he's been a bit rubbish, and I know I haven't been great, but I've been better than him.
Yeah, I'd like to see Nunes start. I think that, like you said there, with the space that Spurs leave behind, it's a great game for him to play. The only thing is, I can see myself coming away from Anfield on Sunday thinking, how was Nunes through so many times and still didn't manage to score?
He's got that in him.
But I think Salah and Diaz are pretty much nailed on. I think that to leave Salah out for a second game running after saying it's all sorted, it just feels a bit like, I'm not sure Klopp, as much as his press conference today seems like he has kind of stopped caring about what people think a bit. I think that there's still, I don't think he's necessarily wants to push Salah away that much to bench him 2 games in a row. And if Salah plays and doesn't play well, then yeah, you can drop him again for Villa and see what happens. But you've got to give him a chance now that he has been dropped, because that's I'm not sure that's ever happened before. When Salah's been at Liverpool, he's been dropped because of form, so it is something new for him, and to see how he reacts to that will be interesting. But I think it will probably be Salah, Nunes, Diaz, and hopefully Nunes can finally come good.
You'd hope so. I do another interesting one, John, is what he does later on in the game, because there are some youngsters. I think Jayden Danns, he hasn't really been in and around the bench, but with no Jota, maybe he can get himself some minutes as well. But I'd be keen to try and get something into him, just to give him a little boost, because it's been a rough season for him. Mentioned Conor Bradley before. Given the fact that we are towards the end of the season, the game hasn't got too much riding on it. His subs could be where you say to some of the fringe players, listen, not today. I'm better off maybe giving those minutes to Stefan, or giving them to Conor Bradley, or giving them to Jayden Danns, because you've seen managers do that before. Again, caveated with they're looking at the next season, and Jürgen might not, but also Jürgen isn't leaving in bad blood. He's not leaving because he's getting binned off or anything. He's leaving because he wants to go. In that, so if he wants to say to Arne Slot, right, I'm going to give you 3 more looks at Jayden Danns, or Stefan Bajcetic, by the way, I'll get on him. He's got the option to be able to do it.
He has, and there seems to be a growing clamour, doesn't there, obviously, for Danns to get a start, given how we've been in terms of shooting and stuff. But I wouldn't be surprised. I think the interesting thing about the last few weeks with the manager is that he's been willing to change things up. I remember being here with yourself and Abby when we were doing the Fulham game and saying, I don't know if Salah starts, and then he didn't. And then, I think because he's going, he's sort of got that sort of free hand to be a bit like, I don't have to keep all of his happy anymore because I know I'm not going to be here, and it's about results and about what's best for the club. So I think there'll be a shock. I think the obvious one for me, I think, is probably Bradley. I think Bradley will appear at some point over the 90, but I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, I think, as you sort of alluded to in terms of form and stuff with the midfield, Elliott is definitely, for me, could almost be the first up because I think he deserves to be on the pitch. And, just giving yourself that option up front. I mean, I think if anything's come out of the last few weeks, it's been that we might need a striker, or we might need some movement in the summer in terms of the attacking line. If you can suddenly go, okay, well, we had this lad who's played a bit in the cup, and in the last couple of games of the pre-season, of the previous season, going into pre-season, he's done some stuff, then it might help us a bit in the summer with transfers.
Yeah, absolutely. I wouldn't be against seeing him get some minutes. Just favour, lads, get you thinking that. So I'm going to ask you for your score predictions in a second. Or you watching live now as well, use the live chat, let me know your score predictions. While you do that, a couple of quick messages. Like I say, I said at the start of the show, redmenmerch.com if you want to get your hands on one of these amazing Doubters to Believers t-shirts. Abby's patent is fantastic. I'm delighted that she let us make a t-shirt out of it because it's absolutely brilliant. Also, been touched on it before, Arne Slot is soon going to be the Liverpool manager. At some point he will be. Don't know quite when that will be, but if you want to know more about him and what makes him tick and all that kind of stuff, we've got loads of content over on redmenplus.com. We spoke to people who've played under them, ex-players. It was a shout to Shearer. We've spoken to experts, analysts, data people, everyone who knows anything about Arne Slot we've pretty much spoken to. That's all available on redmenplus.com. And if you sign up to Redmen Plus as a yearly captain and use the promo code SLOT, there you go, SLOT, you'll get 50% off your subscription. So get yourselves a year's worth of amazing content, learn all about the new manager, and then be there with us every step of the way of his first season as well. His head was very shiny on that thing. Then yeah, redmenplus.com is the place to go. Score predictions then. Michael in the chat thinks 3-1 to Liverpool. Mikey, the other Mikey, is going for a 2-2. And basically Vader, nice name, has gone for 2-1. So nice little spread there. John, what are you thinking for the game?
It took it the first one. I'd go 3-1. I think
there's no Jota to make a 3-1 though. That's his bag, innit? But 3-1, okay. George?
I'm going to go 3-0 to Liverpool. Wow. I think I said we'd get a clean sheet last time.
The second Virgil goes out and we keep a clean sheet. Oh my goodness.
But I just think we're due a clean sheet soon, surely, aren't we? So
I've been saying this for 23 games, George, and we keep letting the first goal in.
But yeah, I'm optimistic. I think 3-0. It'd be nice to see Dan come on and score as well. So.
It would be nice to see him. I'm going to go 3-2. Similar to last week, other than that we get that late goal in front of the cop, because just because why not? Because I reckon by that point the cop will be roaring everybody on trying to get that winner for Jurgen. So I'm going to go for 3-2. Entertaining, relatively stress-free game. That's my guess. We've got a couple more. Tom's gone for a 2-1. Adam 4-1. Rob 4-1. Yeah, loads of people are quite confident that the Reds are going to get it done. Fingers crossed they do. Right, thanks very much, lads, for joining me today. Thanks everyone for watching or listening to this episode of the Preview Show. Come and join us. Preview show. Come and join us on Sunday for the watch along as well. It'll be me and Elle in the studio. So do come and join us on the YouTube channel for that. And yeah, see you all soon.
Thank you so very, very much for checking out the video. If you enjoyed it, drop a like. The season is now well underway. If you need extra Redmen content, be it podcast, videos, documentaries, interviews, and general shows, fill your boots on redmenplus.com today.